60?
24 per month.
24 per month, I heard 60, 30. There's a sign over there that says 81. And when you're driving along here, you might have seen it. The truth is that there's been something like 70 to 80 spills in the history of this pipeline. Not all of them big, but tell anybody who lived close to one of them that it wasn't significant. And of course, it's not really the number of spills, it's the fact that even just one could change our coast forever. In fact, I think the thing that we need to remember is that this pipeline runs right along next to the mighty Fraser River for most of its path. In fact, the new route runs even closer to the Fraser River than the existing one because they're trying to avoid communities and go through provincial right-of-ways, highways, provincial parks. Do you know that they're actually trying to change the Provincial Parks Act in this province so that they can allow this pipeline to run through it? So that is a very good question. I'll come back to that. I think the important thing to understand is that when this pipeline was first built, in 1952, Richard Kinder, the owner of Kinder Morgan, was 11 years old. He did not own and operate the Kinder Morgan pipeline, as I like to call it, which used to be known as the Trans Mountain Pipeline. The Trans Mountain Pipeline was built by a conglomerate of companies for the intent of bringing conventional crude oil to the coast for us to consume in British Columbia. It's where 2/3 of the oil that we consume in BC comes from. But we've shut down more than 2/3 of the refineries in this place. So now we're actually exporting about 20 tankers a year worth of oil so that it can go down the coast, be refined in California or in Washington State, and then be brought back here in tankers. Kinder Morgan bought the pipeline in 2005. This is a Houston-based company owned by a guy named Richard Kinder and a guy named Bill Morgan. The Wall Street Journal called them the luckiest ex-Enron employees. Richard Kinder was next in line to be the CEO of Enron right before that company collapsed. He was smart enough to leave with about $20 million and a pipeline company called Enron Liquid Pipelines LLP, which is now Kinder Morgan Energy Partners. It's one of the biggest pipeline companies in the world, arguably maybe even the biggest pipeline company in the world, run by the 100th richest man on planet Earth, Richard Kinder. Richard Kinder is one of the biggest funders of groups like the Tea Party. He's a huge funder of the far right of the Republican Party in the United States. This is who wants to bring this pipeline to this province. It's not the people who built the pipeline to begin with. Of course, there's a reason to be concerned about the existing pipeline. We need to be concerned about all our consumption of fossil fuels, of course. But it's a very different pipeline that they want to build now for a very different purpose. And this is one of the most effective arguments that they're making to people in the community. You know, there's folks who are concerned about Enbridge, and they say, well, you know, we don't want a pipeline going through the Great Bear Rainforest. Maybe instead we should have this pipeline going through an existing right-of-way. How do you feel about that?
No. Not going to happen.
Of course, both of these pipelines are a horrible idea. We need to be moving away from our dependence on fossil fuels, not towards greater dependence on fossil fuels. Of course, we're not going to change this overnight, but it's a question of trajectories. You know, as the old infrastructure wears out, do we replace it with more of the same bad stuff and even make it worse? Or do we move in the opposite direction?
Opposite direction.
Opposite direction sounds good to me. So this company, Kinder Morgan, they bought the pipeline, and in the few years since they bought it, we've already seen a lot of bad stuff happen. This is a company who's been fined year after year in the United States for not providing adequate maps of where their pipelines are. They've been fined repeatedly for it. You remember what happened just down at the bottom of the hill from where we're standing here in 2007?
Yes!
That was because Kinder Morgan didn't give an adequate map to the city workers who were doing work on the street. And you know what happened after the spill started? Nothing.
Yeah.
You know why? Because they didn't know that it was even happening. In fact, when they were contacted, it was first the Tsleil-Waututh First Nation across the other side of the inlet who got them to act. Year after year, we've seen this sort of thing from this company. In fact, the Pipeline Safety Trust in the United States, which is not a radical organization, this is a state-funded organization in the US, calls them the poster child of an irresponsible pipeline company. These are the guys who want to do business in our backyard.